You are listening to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by machinists. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson of Protean Machining, and this week I am very happy to welcome back Juan March of Jacksonville Precision. It has been way too long, dude. Thank you so much for coming back on.
Yeah, howdy. Thanks for having me back. It's been 2 years.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking before we started. I was, going down the rabbit hole of your last episode, the Florida Man one, and realizing just how much has changed. We're in a group chat together. I kind of see day to day what's going on, and then realizing just how much has gone on in the last 2 years is insane.
Yeah, we have a totally different shop now. We have basically the only thing that hasn't changed is I still work here and Jeff still works here. So all the machines are different and everything now. So yeah, it's been a lot going on.
So last time you had just gotten your first DMU 50. We were just about to go to IMTS and, look at new things. I think you guys were looking at a saw or something. Yeah. So, give me the update. The last 2 years has been a whirlwind for you guys. So what has gone on?
Yeah, so last time we talked, I had two VF2 SSs and the DMU 50 second gen. And we have none of those machines now. We got the 52nd gen. It was fine. It made good parts and stuff, but it had a grease packed spindle. And we got into this one job where we were making 160 of some small part, but they had a bunch of small slots on them. It was probably maybe 20 or 30 inches of tiny slot per part. So it was miles of slotting to do. So we were running the spindle maxed out with a 16th inch end mill or something like that. And we blew up the grease packed spindle twice on one job.
Oh, jeez. So, was that a 20K spindle?
I think it was 16 or something like that. Maybe it was 20.
So it was just balls to the wall all day, every day?
Yeah. So it didn't exactly like that. And it was just to the point where it's if I can't trust this machine to not blow up, then I don't want it in my shop. So, it held good tolerance and stuff. It was fine. But anyways, we upgraded it to a 50 third gen, which has 20K spindle and, air oil, 120 tools, all the bells and whistles and stuff. So that machine's been rock solid. And we also got automation prepped. So we've got a pallet pool on it now, which has been awesome. And what else? Yeah, we kept we've been doing all these larger helicopter parts recently, and we kept having to no quote stuff or sub it out. That was too big for our VF2s. So I think I got some parts quoted, and the best price I got for them was half the price of a VM6. So I was just fuck it, I'll just buy a VM6 and we'll just make them ourselves. So we got that, and then, man, what else? Yeah, the VF2s, they were kind of starting to show their age. I always say that I think Haas machines are kind of 5-year machines, honestly, before you just start having to do maintenance on them constantly. So those were both getting up there, 3, 4, 5 years old. So I wanted to swap those out. And again, with the large flat parts, we've been subbing out a lot of Datron stuff. So we ended up picking up a Datron ML Cube, a floor model to do, large format flat stuff. And then we got a VF4 SS with a 5-axis trunnion on it to kind of get my less experienced guys into 5-axis machining in a somewhat cheap way, at least cheaper than picking up another DMU or something.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's been so funny though, because you those last 2 or 3 machines you've mentioned, at least on the outside in our group chat, just seemed like a whim. You're yeah, we want a Datron, so we bought one.
Yeah,
wait, what? Is that a joke? And you're no, we bought one.
Yeah,
it'll be here in a little bit.
I wanted one for a while, and I got a couple quotes on them, but just for what they are new, it's just man, I can have a DMU 50 5-axis, or I can have a Datron for damn near the same price. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to get one if you're paying full price for it, I think.
Yeah.
And most of the people that we know that have them, well, maybe not most of them, but a lot of people that we know who have them, they buy them used. Just, I guess they feel the same way that I do. But yeah, the floor model came up and the timing kind of worked out because, it's a lot, but we're also moving shops. So it kind of worked out to where I could sell those 2 VF2s and get them out of here and not pay to rig them anywhere. And then just rig the new machines into our new shop once we move. So just the stars kind of aligned with that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and you've also kind of dropped the lead. You also added a bigger DMU.
Oh, yeah, the 75. Yeah, I guess the 75 happened before all that other stuff happened, because I think we had the 52nd gen and then the 75. And then
that's how I remember it too. Yeah,
I think that was it. But yeah, our parts just keep getting bigger and bigger. Everybody always says, the machine's never big enough, and that's definitely true. So yeah, we do a lot of larger 5-axis stuff on that machine, mostly aerostructure stuff too. That's where like our bread and butter is kind of in aero and defense now. We still
So walk me through that decision though. What made you, did you cross shop the 75 across other brands, like similar size machine? Were you just very happy with your 50? And so you're like, all right, this is the obvious choice. That's an even more significant purchase than your 50 was. So how did you go about that?
Yeah, I guess like we already knew the Siemens control, and I'm like a maniac when it comes to standardization, or at least I try to be as much as I can. So having like the same control was a big thing for me. We did look at Hermle like a lot though. We traveled to look at other people's shops with Hermles and stuff like that. And, we got the quote and I was like about to pull the trigger on it. But then when it came to financing, like I just couldn't find like good financing for it. DMG and Haas, they've got like their in-house financing teams and they'll give you like pretty competitive rates and they just make it really easy for you to get the machine in your hands. So that's kind of what tipped us over the edge, just getting the 75 and staying with DMG Mori.
Yeah, it's kind of wild when you're your own bank, how subprime you can go on a loan.
Yep.
You look at any third party, like even a good third party bank versus Haas or DMG, and it's just insane. It really is like almost free money.
Yeah, Haas's interest rate is like first of all, they'll give you like 2 years no interest or something stupid like that, and then it's like 1.5% or something. So it's like it's basically free. Yeah. So that makes Haas really attractive. And then DMGs, they're a little bit higher, but it's still like super easy to do. Like they just ask you for like your like a balance sheet and a P&L, and they're like, okay, here you go, you can have the machine. Like that's pretty much all there is to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've got a pretty good relationship with our bank now, or one of them that we have loans with.
Mm-hmm.
And for the U500 that we just put deposits on, they were like, you can just send me an email with last year's and this year's sales figures.
Yeah.
And that's good enough. Like we've got your information. It's fine.
Yep.
And it makes things so much easier because then you talk to other banks and they're like, all right, so we need like 3 years of tax returns and we need, your balance sheet and P&Ls for the last 2 years and we need this and that. And you're like, man, I just want to buy a machine. Like, can we do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking into trying to build or buy a building, just kind of exploring it. Like I didn't really think at this point that it was going to work out, but I kind of wanted to go through the process. And it was like the same thing. Like I spent like 7 hours on a Saturday, like accumulating all these documents that they wanted to look at to give me a loan, which I get it. It's a lot of money, but man, they're not make it easy on us,
Yeah. Yeah. It's every time I have to deal with that, I'm like, man, maybe I should hire an accountant or like at least a part-time accountant. Like that would be so nice to just say, hey, get this stuff together and send it over to this bank.
Yeah, that would be nice. We've got an accountant, but he's really like, he just does our sales tax for us mostly because that's kind of a nightmare in Florida. But like, yeah, I've been having the same thoughts. Like I could really use a person to just be like, what do I do with this money? Or like, how do I not go bankrupt over the next 3 or 4 years? Help me out. I don't really have that kind of resource. So
yeah, same.
Yeah.
So you got the 75, then you got the Gen 350.
Yep.
I believe.
Yep. And then
so walk me through that. Like, very often if you blow up a spindle,
mm-hmm.
people are shopping around looking at other brands. So what made you jump back in with DMG on that? And, what kind of options did you choose on this one versus your first one? Yeah.
So the first one had, like I said, the grease pack spindle, which was the biggest downside. It had 30 tools. And that's like about it, really. I don't think there's really anything else that's like super fancy on the second gen. So, I mean, I liked everything else about the machine. It was like super tight, held great tolerances and stuff. It was a relatively fast machine. So like I liked it. I liked the ergonomics and stuff. Like when you open the door, the table is like hitting your legs basically. Like you can be like right inside the machine, which is super nice. I just didn't want the spindle blowing up. And like, I just knew like it's a grease pack spindle. You can't run these things max RPM for days on end. Like they're just not going to tolerate it. So like I kind of had faith that like getting a machine with an air oil spindle was going to fix my problems. And so far so good. We've got the same spindle on both of our DMGs now, and they've been solid. So I mean that was really it. But like we wanted to get into automation too, so we got the new 53rd gen with auto prep and like extra wash downs, 120 tools, bloom laser and stuff like that. I guess that was kind of a preparatory purchase for starting to get into automation stuff.
And does your 75 have the laser as well, or was this your first laser machine?
Yeah, the 75 does have the laser.
Okay, because your second gen had a touch probe.
Yeah,
right?
it had a touch presetter on it.
Okay. Yeah, the lasers are awesome, but also just add so much complexity to the whole thing. Like, you really have to learn how to load tools and all that.
Yep. Yeah, you do. They can be a little bit finicky too. Like, they want you to touch things off in a certain way. You know, there's the whole like go through the laser and come back out versus go in, and you know, there's like a bunch of different settings that you can use. But I think we've got it figured out at this point.
Yeah. It just takes a little bit, like you said. I know I said on a few episodes ago, like learning how to set key seat cutters correctly. Mm-hmm. I had that, thankfully I had an apps guy coming out anyway to look at some other stuff. I was like, how do I do this? Because every time I try to set an offset, it just like blows past the key seat cutter and errors out. And he's like, oh, you got to do it this way. And like, it's the only tool that I can't automatically set in the Hermla. I have to go in and manually set it in MDI first. So. Yeah,
the lasers can be a little scary too, touching off larger tools. You know, you've got like a 3-inch face mill going into it, and you're just like, oh my God, it's gonna. It looks like it's gonna hit.
Way too close to the edges for comfort. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh boy. And then so let's talk about your Haas purchases, because you bought those with some interesting options as well, or not as common spindles and things like that.
Oh yeah, I was talking about standardization earlier. So we had our old VF2s were Cat 40, and then both of our DMG machines are HSK 63. And I really wanted to have just one type of spindle in the shop, just for the sake of like being able to switch jobs over to, between Haas and DMG, and like be able to just pull tools out and not have to, move tools around in holders and stuff like that. So we ended up getting the VM6 with an HSK 63 spindle, and the new VF4 that's on its way also has the HSK 63. So I think we were like the second shop in Florida to get a Haas with an HSK spindle on it, which is kind of interesting. Oh, wow. Yeah. But like Haas Tooling has, as you know, they've got the HSK holders and stuff like that now. I think like a lot of the apprehension to getting into HSK was like they were just really expensive for a long time, but they're starting to get adopted a lot more in the States now. So you can get HSK holders for like pretty much the same price as a Cat 40 holder now, pretty close to anyways.
Right. What's the RPM on the Haas HSK spindle?
It is 14K, I believe. I think that's
weird.
Yeah, I think they have a 30K spindle too, but it's a BT30.
Yeah. So yeah, from the Patreon, Zap asked, how nice is it to have complete holder uniformity, and have you noticed an appreciable difference in setup time?
I think it's going to be very nice, but honestly, the changeover is so fresh that like I don't think that we've really started to reap the rewards from it yet. There's been a couple instances where like one of my guys, Zach, will walk over and be like, oh, can I have the giant slitting saw out of the DMU? I was like, yeah, just take it. And he just takes it and pops it in the machine, and all of the height offsets are the same and stuff. So you can just like copy your height offsets between machines too, which is cool.
Yeah, that's super neat.
Yeah.
I imagine the big thing that would hold up like some real setup time difference is how differently Siemens and Haas handle tool offsets. Like I know I see that between our brothers and our Heidenhain is like, man, I wish brother was just a little bit smarter the way that Heidenhain is.
Yeah. So Siemens, it doesn't even use tool numbers. It's just like your tool description, and Fusion in our case is, what you call the tool in the machine and in your programs. And of course, Haas is all tool number based. So like we're still kind of trying to work through how we can standardize our libraries to work between all machines. Like the tool number thing isn't like a huge deal, but the spindle speed is kind of like one of our hangups right now. Like, do we have all of our tools, standard at like 14K RPM, or do we have them like with different feed and speed formulas depending which machine you're running, So like we're still kind of trying to figure that out. I don't really like the drop down preset thing in Fusion sometimes. It's nice to have it there, but like it gets kind of weird. There's just a lot of extra clicking, I think, if you want to like move something from a DMG to a Haas, like selecting all your different feeds and speeds,
Yeah, it is frustrating that there's no way to just batch change that like there is with the post. Mm-hmm. Like if I could just change machines in an op and have it, go through and select a set of presets that were from the drop down, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'm starting to look at that same issue between the Hermla and the U500 is like, okay, so if I have it programmed for the Hermla, I don't have 18K on the U500. I've got 16. Like, how do I deal with that? And I'm right there with you of like, do I just standardize at 16K and call it a day? How do I deal with this? And the tool holders are going to be slightly different too. That's going to be even worse for me because I will have to like go in and be like, okay, no, I have to update all these with BT30 holders so that simulate correct.
Yeah, the holder's the big thing. Like if I had two machines, like one was 14 and one was 16, or I forget what you said, 14, 16. I think I'd just probably like keep the 14. But between like 14 and 20, like Haas to DMG, like you could potentially leave a lot on the table, if you wanted to move something over to the DMG. But I don't know. Maybe we'll just make everything 14 and then make the DMG guys suffer if they want to change feeds and speeds a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then I just want to touch on the Datron one more time. So it's an ML Cube. So that is bigger than the 10 even, right?
I think so, or it's like pretty comparable. It's like 55 by 40 or something like that. It's pretty large.
That's giant. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, that'll be nice. Like we just quoted a Delrin job that's like 2,500 parts, but if we lay like, I think it's like 3/8 sheet, if we just lay it like a big sheet out on the table, we can make like 120 parts at once or something like that, which is pretty cool. But like we also get a lot of sheet metal stuff that the customer doesn't want it all laser cut. They don't want any heat affected zone. So we were subbing a bunch of that stuff out to Datron shops. So we'll be able to do that in house now too, which will be nice.
Yeah, that's killer.
Yeah.
And then the ML has the tool changer versus the wine rack, right?
It does have, it's like a wine rack style tool changer, but it's like enclosed. So it sits,
okay.
Yeah, it sits in the back.
I thought the ML was the one with the weird like dual arm that came out or whatever.
I think that's an option that you can get.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
that's cool.
I'm probably wrong, but I think it's like you can have up to 3 of these little like 12 tool changer rack things that sit in the back, and they have like a lid that closes over them pretty much.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, then we've got a bunch of questions for you. Zap's other question was, this is not a Jack's question, but a Juan question. What is your favorite type of part to make?
I like big aluminum hog outs still. I mean, everybody loves them. They're always fun. What else? Honestly, these days, single op parts, I just like anything with a second op. I'm just like so lazy now that I don't even want to look at it. I want to just get a single op part off a 5-axis machine. That's awesome to be able to do that.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a baby. I like aluminum. I kind of don't love anything other than aluminum anymore. Just because especially because 85% of the stuff that we do is aluminum. So whenever there's like anything else that comes in, I got to set up 30 tools.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you've got employees to do that stuff too. Oh, that's a thing we didn't even talk about. So last time you were on, I believe you just had Frankie and Jeff.
And Jeff, yeah. Yeah, so Frankie, his wife or fiance, I forget if they got married yet or not. They did an elopement thing. I think they're still engaged, but I could be wrong. Hopefully he's not listening. But she moved down she wanted to go to nursing school, and she got into a school in Tampa. So he ended up moving down there. So he doesn't work here anymore. Now he's working at like a wood shop kind of that they do a lot of CNC stuff still. So it was kind of cool. He went to school for physics, and then he came here knowing nothing about manufacturing, learned how to make parts, and now he went down to this wood shop. They have got a bunch of CNC routers, and he runs the show down there now, I guess, in terms of at least the manufacturing. So that's cool,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So then how many people are you up to now, and what's the staff looking like these days?
Yeah, so we still got Jeff, and then we've also got a guy named Zach, who I think he found us on Instagram, actually, but he works over at a GE Oil and Gas here in town. But I think he messaged me, and I was like, I don't know, just come by the shop and say hi. And he came by probably 2 or 3 times over, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. And I was like, if you ever want to leave GE and come work for a tiny machine shop, let me know. And that's what he ended up doing. So he left GE and he came to work for us probably about a year ago. And he's been great. He's kind of the guy who we can just throw a lot of onesie twosie stuff at, and he just bust it out super quick, He pretty much runs Haas 3-axis only, but I think he's got a Tormach in his garage with a 4th axis on it. So hopefully when this new Haas comes in, he'll start getting his hands dirty with some 5-axis stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. Who else we got? Connor's here now. I think Connor, I don't know how he found the shop. I think he cold called me one day, and he's like, "Are you guys hiring?" And I was like, "Probably not, but you're welcome to come say hi." And he came to the shop to just hang out, and I showed him around, and I just kind of liked him. He seemed like a good guy, good attitude and stuff, seemed really motivated. So I guess I just decided to hire him. I don't know. Yeah, and he's been great too. Super motivated. quick learner, like asks a lot of questions that are like good questions to ask. Like we make a lot of 3D printed parts, and we were like laser marking the part numbers on all of them. He's like, why don't we just print the part numbers into these parts? I'm like, damn, dude, that's a really good idea. like, you know, it's just great to have people like that around the shop who just point out better ways to do things.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so Connor's great. We had an intern over the summer, which was actually awesome. I think we're an intern shop now. Like I'm going to try to get interns whenever we can, just to do stuff like, you know, deburring and like cleaning parts and stuff like that. It's good for them because they get to like be a fly on the wall and just absorb knowledge. And we get a young guy that we can just like throw the stuff that we're sick of doing onto. But yeah, he was great. Like never complained. Like always down to just do like anything that we needed help with.
Right. So how do you balance that kind of risk with an intern? Because, you know, deburring especially, like it's very easy to scrap parts if you're deburring and you kind of don't know what you're doing. So how did you make sure that like your intern was set up for success?
Yeah, so I think his first like week that we had him here, I stuck him with Zach and Connor, and I was like, just hang out with them. And then I told Zach and Connor, I'm like, just show him like anything that you don't want to do or that you think that he should know, just show him, you know. So he just like shadowed two of my more experienced guys for a couple of days and like picked up some basics that way. And then like anytime that we had something for him to do that was like kind of critical, we would just do the first 2 or 3 with him and then make him do one, make sure that he wasn't going to mess it up, and then just let him run basically. But he's just super competent, you know. He's like a car guy, so he like knows hand tools and stuff like that. I guess it kind of just comes down to sussing him out for a week and seeing what you trust him with, and then let him go from there.
How did you find him?
He found us on Instagram. It's like he went to school. I think his parents live in Jacksonville, but he goes to school in Auburn.
Okay.
So yeah, we just popped up on Instagram somehow, and he just messaged me and asked if we were looking for an intern. And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Why not?
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
now he's gone though. So he's back at school. I think like 3 weeks ago he left.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
And so is that the full team at Jack's right now?
One more guy. We got a quality engineer too that we stole from Johnson & Johnson. So he's been great too. Another young guy, like I think Zach is the oldest at 30 years old here. So he's been great. Also just super motivated. I think he's stoked to just like have a quality system that he can kind of just make himself, you know. That's always fun. So he's been working out really well too.
That's killer. Yeah, because maybe we should talk about your whole AS journey as well.
Yeah. I guess we started like trying to pursue AS 9100, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago or so. And man, this is going to open a whole can of worms, but we're also building that ERP system. So like we were kind of working towards AS like super slowly because we wanted to build the ERP out to like fully support AS. So we weren't really rushing into it. Just like slowly over time, we started adding extra features to the ERP that would, you know, facilitate our certification. But like in that year and a half time span, I hired a consultant to come help us out. And that was good. Honestly, like the consultant in our case didn't do like that much of the work to getting us to AS, but it was just good to have somebody to talk to that like knows everything about it, just to steer you in the right direction. And like it was pretty affordable. I think we probably spent like over a year and a half getting AS 9100. We probably spent like maybe 15 grand, which I would think it would be a lot more expensive than that. But yeah, it really wasn't too bad, I don't think. But
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I figured this would be a good sideline into Infab because that's been the other big Jack's project for the last, what has it been, a year and a half?
Yeah, probably a year and a half.
Yeah, like Ethan had asked, you know, Infab and your plans for it. Lane Borg had asked shop management software. What do you use?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about the Infab story and where are we right now?
Yeah, so it was born out of necessity because I just couldn't keep everything in my head anymore, especially given the kind of work that we do. It's a lot of onesie-twosie stuff. Like back when we first started working on Infab, I think a typical PO for us was like between like 20 and 40 part numbers, and it was like less than 5 of each. And it was getting to the point where I was like, okay, what's at finishing? Like, what have we shipped? What have we made? You know, where are they? Like, what vendors it going to? All that sort of thing. And it's just like starting to drop the ball on knowing where jobs were. And it was just becoming cumbersome too, because I was like, we had a shelf in the back that had like finished parts. I'm like, okay, is this part like finished machining, or is it finished? Does it have anodize? Like I just didn't know the status of like every single part. And I was having to ask my guys, like, what is this? What's been done to this? Where is it? Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like I sublet my office to some of my buddies from college, a couple software guys. And I was like, guys, can you help me make this thing to help me, track my jobs? And it wasn't that serious at first. I think they worked on it for like a month, and we kind of had something that was like sort of kind of usable, like very basic, just like I said, like tracking where parts are basically. And it's like slowly grown from there into like creating POs through it and like managing your vendors, like tracking on time delivery. Like we've got basically a full quality system in there now. Man, what else does it do? It's got like provisions for inventory management that are like halfway fleshed out right now. Like we're tracking material certs and stuff like that. So like long term, we're kind of trying to have like material inventory and like finished parts inventory and stuff like that in there. But we're just like slowly adding features to it. I guess like it was made because like nothing else worked for us. Like we tried a couple other ERP systems. We like looked at a couple and we tried one of them. And like I think on the ERP that I actually bought, I did like 4 training sessions, and I was just like, this isn't going to work, man. Like, I still don't know what's going on here. And like, I've got employees and I'm going to have to train them. So yeah, it was just like, I couldn't find anything that was like perfect for like a small, like high mix, low volume job shop. That was just like easy to use, like there's a lot of ERPs out there for manufacturing, but they seem to kind of be based on like assembly manufacturing or like in-house products and stuff like that. Like very, very like inventory focused. And like, I don't really need an inventory focused ERP, I just need like a quoting parts and getting them out the door ERP, which right. I don't know, it just didn't really seem to exist in a way that I liked.
I think a lot of people can agree with you there.
Yeah.
Like I've looked at a lot of them, and there are pieces of a lot of them that I like, but nothing as a package where I'm like, oh yeah, this seems like something I could integrate in my shop with minimal fuss.
Yeah. We're trying to focus really hard on like making it easy to integrate and not forcing you to do things in a certain way. Like there's a lot of ERPs that like they do quoting like all the way to shipment, but like for example, like you have to make a quote before you can make an order or something like that. Like we're trying to make our ERP so that like you can use like whatever pieces of it you want without them like shoehorning you into a finite way of doing something. Like in ours, say for example, like you have a guy that walks in off the street and he's like, hey, can you drill a hole on this for me? Like you're not necessarily going to make him a formal quote. Like you can just make a job in our ERP like without quoting the parts, So like all of the modules, so to speak, are kind of independent of one another, but they also work really well together. There's kind of a like the central system to the ERP is kind of like document management. So like, I mean, like drawing revisions and stuff like that are super important. So we've like got provisions to revise, to like create and revise like any document that's uploaded to the ERP, like your POs and stuff, like they can all be revised and you can track all those revisions. Like all the revs of like any documents that you make or upload are stored there, and you've got like revision history with like notes and stuff like that, because that's kind of a big thing in AS too. Like if you change something, like the change needs to be documented and you need to know like who changed it, when, and why. So we've built all of that in there like as kind of a core component.
So how was it dealing with building a software at the same time as going after your AS cert? Because I imagine having to bug squash at the same time that you're trying to like flesh out a system could be a little stressful.
Yeah. So like the guys, they built, we're calling it Infab, the ERP. They built Infab like just for me originally, which was fine for us. But like it got to a certain point where we were like, man, we can probably sell this to other people. And like at that point, they kind of had to rewrite the entire code base to have multi-tenancy built in, like, different shops using the same platform without like cross-contamination of data and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess to go back to your question, like they were working on my version of Infab, which I guess I'll call Alpha, for like at least a year before we ever had an auditor in the building looking at it. So by that point, it was like relatively fleshed out, at least to the point where like I know what bugs are in there and I can avoid them like when the auditor is here. Not that there were like any like really critical bugs that would like make you ineligible to be certified. But like, I knew what I needed to look out for so I could avoid those. But like The development process, at least for me, has been really easy because I'm not doing any of it. Yeah. Like I said, we we sublet our office to two software guys that I know really well from college. I've known them for like 10 years. So development has been like, I walk 20 steps into the office and I say, hey, Blake, I want this in the software. And he's like, okay, give me a couple of days. And he'll bust something out and then we'll look at it together and revise it and stuff like that. So it's been super cool. Like anytime that there is a bug or something, like I just walk inside and I tell Blake and he's like, oh yeah, I know what that is. And he'll just fix it real quick, like on the fly. So
it is probably worth mentioning at this point that you are not taking on customers for Infab. I don't want you to get a flood of emails. You're currently in beta or alpha testing, however you want to phrase it.
Yeah, we're in like super beta right now. We did open it up to a few beta users. I think we've got 4 on there right now, but most of them are people that I know personally who are kind of willing to bear with a product that just like isn't perfect yet. But yeah, it's slowly getting there. I think we're kind of targeting like beginning of next year for a public release. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that is the goal. It's just like my alpha version that I mentioned earlier. Like it's pretty full featured. Like you can do pretty much everything that you'd want to do in it. But they're like slowly, like I said, rewriting the whole code base and moving everything over to a new version. So they're just like rewriting everything and like polishing things as they go along. So
the stuff you've shown me, it seems super cool. Like having a spec library so you can go in and nice. Have all the specs that you've bought. Just stuff like that is, as someone who was a quality person for so long, like that stuff is key. Like it's such a pain in the ass to go find, I need this, AS or, AA spec for something. Like this sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a little bit cliche, but we're trying to do everything in the software that like, a machine shop needs, like even down to like preventative maintenance and stuff like that. Like you can have a machine library in the software and then assign like your maintenance tasks to it and then assign people to those maintenance tasks, and like they'll get notifications that they have to acknowledge, like whenever there's a PM that's done, like they have to sign off that it's done, which again all goes back to AS9100. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of building it to work perfectly for my shop and our approach. Like I think that there's a lot of shops that are pretty similar to mine, like yours and Easton's, for example. Like we probably do a lot of the same stuff. So I think it'd work really well for you guys. And that's kind of the markets that we're trying to go after. Like we're not gonna add like little tiny modules and features like all over the place, like for any customer, you know what I mean? Like we're just gonna target people that it works for, and if it's not a perfect fit, then it's just not a perfect fit. Like it's not really a source of income for me. So like I don't really care if it makes that much money, like my machine shop is what, feeds me and my guys. So at the end of the day, I kind of just want the product to be really nice, regardless of, profitability, I guess.
So speaking about money, do you guys have a rough idea of what it's going to cost yet?
We're still battling that problem internally. I think we might do like a tiered thing, like, maybe starting, I'm just throwing numbers out, so don't at me.
Yeah.
Maybe like 500.
You're not beholden to anything you say here. I'm just curious, like rough, as shop owners, we both know that sometimes it's nice to just have like, is this a $10,000 investment? Is it a $100,000 investment? What am I looking at kind of thing?
Yeah. So I'm thinking like maybe like $500 a month for like the basic package. And then like, if you want like the AS compliance package, maybe some additional, I'm not sure. Like paperless parts, for example, is like $700 a month, and all it does is quoting,
Right. Yeah.
But, that being said, I don't think people are really stoked with that number that are using the platform. So I don't know. I'll probably just ask you guys what you think it's worth, and then we'll go from there. What do you want to pay for this?
Right, exactly. No, I look forward to seeing it more fleshed out. Like it seems super, super cool. And
but
it's made by a shop that like you said, we don't do the same work, but we do similar style of work. In terms of like high mixed low volume stuff. And so like I know that whatever you build into it is going to have a reason.
Yeah. It's more of like just similar workflows, like you care about material certs, you care about like tracking revisions of stuff. You probably care about material traceability and like having material in inventory and stuff like that. So yeah, it'd probably be a good fit, but we've been doing demos and stuff like that and kind of just picking people's brains about it. So I don't know. I think it'll work out for a lot of shops like ours that are kind of, I guess, like job shop, but like at least a couple steps beyond like taking walk-in customers for car parts kind of things, like.
Right. Yeah. It's not going to be a QuickBooks extension. It's going to be an ERP, but it's not going to be, as pain in the ass as much as a lot of them can be.
Yep.
Well, speaking of job shopping and things like that, Justin from the Patreon asked, what does a no-quote job look like for you or for Jax?
Yeah. Pretty much like anything without a drawing or a step file is going to be a no quote for me, like unless the customer can get that to me. And then like in terms of like the kind of work, a lot of like heavy industry, like giant steel stuff, I'll typically like not look at. Anything involving like aerospace welding, I'm probably not going to want to get involved in. And it depends on the customer too. Like if one of my really good customers is like, hey, we can't find anybody to make this thing. Like even if I can't make it, like I'll probably try to help them find somebody to do it, and usually try to manage that for them. Like I'll just run it through my shop and mark it up a little bit. Like we get, like I said, like a lot of the sheet metal stuff that we were doing for a while. Like we were subbing out like Datron cutting of, flat patterns and then sending those to sheet metal shops and then sending the bent parts to finishing. Like I literally did not touch any of those parts, but like we'll still quote it and we'll do it for a good customer,
Right. Well, and I can see why you would want infab then, because like keeping track of your own parts is hard enough, but keeping track of like, okay, I've got 3 outsourced vendors for this set of parts and they need to be at each place at a certain date and all of that. Like that's a lot of admin work.
Yeah, you can't do it in your head after a certain point,
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Wirtz Manufacturing asked for both of us, what has been the biggest surprise or struggle since expanding both of our businesses?
Probably just managing people. I think I'm a pretty shit manager generally. And also not very good at explaining things. So like, that's certainly been a challenge to like bring somebody new on and like explain to them why we do things certain ways and why it's important and what the consequences of not doing it right are. That's like a daily struggle, but we're starting to get more into like writing work instructions and stuff like that. So hopefully that will go a long way towards like me not explaining the same thing to 3 separate people in 3 different ways,
Yeah. I'd say one thing that has surprised me or been kind of a struggle, I don't know if it's a struggle, but it's just, you kind of think as a small shop, you're like, I just need to make it to like this much revenue a year and then the stress will go away. And it's like, no. The goalposts just continue to move with you. Like now you have a low month. And if you step back and look at it, you're like, this is more money than I've made the entire first year of my business. Why am I stressed about it? And then you look at the numbers though, and you're like, I should have made more this month. This is stupid. So it's wild to me how quickly the goalposts move and how it just, I don't want to say it's never enough. Like it is just fantastic to continue to grow, but it is like that stress just doesn't go away. You're still building your house of cards and like I got a lot more pillars now. It's a lot stronger than it was, but it never feels like enough.
Yeah. And the numbers, they get bigger in both directions, right? Like we make a lot more money making parts now, but we also have like 40 grand in payroll every month and like another 40 grand in machine payments every month, even though we're like right. It's just it's just everything gets bigger.
Yeah. But it kind of redefines what success means to you, I think. Like for the longest time, I was like, oh man, if I hit this revenue goal per year, I'll have made it, like I'll be successful, like whatever that means.
Yeah. On one of the old bomb podcasts, the Johns were talking about like growth for the sake of growth. And I don't know when I'm going to reach the point of just being like, I think I'm done growing now. I guess it's just human nature to want to keep like adding things and building things for no particular reason.
Right. Yeah. Well, it feels like the goal of having a business, at least at first. And so I think it's very hard to transition out of that mindset of like, okay, we're doing enough. Let's like focus on, doubling down with our current customers and making the experience better and like the non-true value add stuff. It just feels bizarre, but it's definitely been a surprise growing the business.
It's weird having a business of our sizes too. Because like I feel like until you get to like maybe 10 or 12 employees, the owner has to wear like so many hats still, like I'm kind of trying to figure out at what point do I have a receptionist or like an in-house bookkeeper, like all of that kind of weird stuff, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So like that kind of makes you want to grow a little bit more just to like offload those ancillary tasks. 'Cause I don't want to do those until I'm 60, you know?
Yeah. If I could offload bookkeeping and all of that accounting stuff and just have someone who is an expert in that, I would feel so much better about everything. Cause like I am reminded daily how little I know about the financial world, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Me too, for sure. And then like even down to like shipping and receiving. Like when do you get a shipping and receiving person, you know? That stuff takes a lot of time. I mean, and as you know, I mean, I'm sure that you have customers where you have to include like certain sets of documents and stuff like that, you know? So it's like a lot of that stuff still kind of falls on my plate because I kind of know what each customer wants. And I'll go back to NFAB for a second. We want to have a way in NFAB to like specify what documents certain customers require. So you can like hopefully easily let anybody in the shop pack parts with like the correct sets of docs and stuff like that. But yeah, for now, like I still do all that stuff just because like nobody knows that like so-and-so like requires physical copies of like they want 2 invoices and like material certs and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like they just don't know.
It's tough. It's buyers and like receiving quality can be such a pain in my side sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. You're just like, what do you mean you're rejecting this for that one piece of I'll email it to you right now. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh, well, we have to reject it until we get the correct documents. I'm like, oh my God, man.
Yeah. It's such a pain. His other question was, what method have either of you utilized to find new customers? Is knocking on doors and cold calling a good strategy, or is there higher ROI methods to utilize? And he's like talking about like ThomasNet and things like that.
Yeah. Honestly, I've had decent success with LinkedIn. I think our biggest customer actually came from LinkedIn, just from like a random message. I was like, hey, can we make parts for you guys? And they were like, yeah, sure, probably. And they sent us like a small job to start with. And we sent that out. I think it was like a $6,000 job or something like that. And now they're like our top customer. Like, and over the course of like 2 years, they've grown to be like probably like 60% of our revenue, which is not good, but you know.
But still good money. Yeah.
Yeah, the money's good, but if they go away, then we're in big trouble.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a balancing act in and of itself, for sure.
Yeah.
He also says that he'd love to see more of the pallet pool, and I think we all would. So I know it's very hard with NDA stuff, but like I want to see more pallet changes and all that stuff.
I can show you guys like raw stock going into the machine, but after that, I shouldn't.
Right. Yeah, I gotcha. All right. So Built by Hutch asked, what has been your strategy to seemingly specialize in every direction? So Giant Haas, Datron, all of that. What is the method to your madness there? Of you seem to not say no a lot. You say yes more than a lot of shops, I think.
Yeah, don't be like me. Don't do that. Say no more. I've gotten us into so many stupid pickles from saying yes to stuff that I shouldn't have said yes to. It's like at least a monthly thing, probably. But
you got some cool machinery out of it, though.
Yeah, we got some cool machinery out of it, but like honestly, I don't really think of it as specializing in every direction because like right now it's all milling, you know. Some of it, like the 5-axis, is, I guess you could call that a specialty, but like at the end of the day, it's just milling and tool orientation. You know, it's just the tool orientation button. That's all you really need to know. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like we probably could use a lathe, and that's like one thing that I'm kind of really hesitant about because that's like a whole nother can of worms. You know. That to me would be specializing in a different direction.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to look at it. It's just like they're all mills. They're different size and different, you know, internal specialties, but they are just mills. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess like there are differences, obviously. Like on the VM6, for example, like you get into a lot of funky work holding and stuff like that, just because the parts are so big and like you're working with warping and stuff like that. But I think a lot of that kind of just goes back to, you know, a lot of machining basics, like just holding the part in a way that's going to keep it where you want it and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, speaking of work holding, we had a ton of questions about Lang. Johnny Wood saying, how many shares of Lang do you have in your portfolio? Tron Industries, how much do you spend on Lang in that picture? Josh Peck with, I think, one of the best questions. He says, how much time have you spent in jail for all your illegal Lang setups? Let's get into your love of Lang and some of the decisions you've made. Because, like, I think especially the way you outfitted the VM6 is very interesting.
The VM6 is has a stupid amount of laying on it. It is dumb, but it is also awesome. Like I
Yeah,
guess
I mean, like that's got to be 40% of the purchase price or 30% of the purchase price was another bit into laying.
yeah, something like that.
So why? Let's go down that machine's rabbit hole first.
Okay.
Why fit the entire table with laying 0 points, and then how are you using that to your advantage?
Yeah, sure. So the job that I bought that machine for was like 1.5 inch thick aluminum plate that was like 64.5 inches by like 30 inches. And I think this part started at like I could be getting these numbers totally wrong. I think they started at like 300 pounds and they ended at like 30 pounds.
Jeez.
So they're like giant flat aluminum hog out, like, kind of aerospace-y looking, like a lot of pockets and stuff like that. And I didn't think for that job that like vacuum was really going to be a good solution, just because I figured those parts would want to warp just being so long and stuff. And like kind of I mean, I guess I could have used like a lot of T-slot clamps and stuff like that. But I had previous experience with laying on verticals from our VF2s back in the day, and my guys really liked that. I really like it. So I don't know. It was just a good way to hold those parts in particular, like flat parts, like directly mounted to the table with studs, And I don't know. It's just nice. It like makes your setups like 30 seconds, Yeah, it makes stuff super repeatable. Like at least on our 5-axis, I mean, you do the same thing. We don't have to probe anything ever, pretty much.
Yeah. I always thought I was going to use my probe infinitely more than I do. And I think I bring it out, maybe a couple times a month, but like,
yeah, I'll measure something
so much
occasionally
more
with
others.
it. Yeah. Or do some like C-axis alignment, stuff like that. I think Jeff's using it for some alignment on some parts right now, but that's like really it. But yeah, at least for the vertical, I mean, it just makes it easy. And it kind of opens the doors to using like all of the other stuff that Lang has, like the tombstones and the macro grip ultra vices and stuff like that.
That was another thing I wanted to touch on, because that's something that I'm starting to look at, and I think a lot of people aren't really aware of what the Ultra is. So talk to me about why you got into Ultra and then what you use it for. Maybe I guess to kind of, head off of Josh's question, was this to avoid more jail time for your illegal laying setups?
Yeah, we were doing some stuff for a while where I was using 2 Lang vices to hold like super long parts, like taking the front jaw off. Don't do that. The Lang vices do not appreciate when you do that to them. So I wanted to stop doing that, which is like the primary reason for getting the Lang vices. Just hold big chunks of aluminum. I think we had like one job on the 75 that was just like giant plates. And I started it using the illegal method of 2 vices, like set up in series, broke a carrier, and then I was like, okay, I guess I have to bite the bullet and buy the macro grip ultras. So yeah, I mean, just necessity. Like I just needed them, so I bought them.
And so for people who haven't seen them, they are, how would you describe the ultras versus a normal Lang?
Yeah, they're like the regular Lang vices, but they're like made. They're like damn it, I'm at a loss here. What's the word I'm looking for? They're modular,
right?
So you can make them like super long. I forget what the longest that you can make them is, but you can just buy these like body pieces and just like stack them up in a line and make your vise longer, so you can hold like super long parts basically.
Right. Yeah. If Lang is the Lego of work holding, the Ultra is the Lego of vices, and like you can just add longer screws and different jaws. My question to you is like, we do a lot of variable size parts, so do you find them very limiting? Like I was looking at probably the smallest size Ultra, which still lets you hold, I think, 18 inches or something like that. But can you hold fairly small stuff as well? Like, can the jaws get fairly close? Or have you just not used them like that?
I haven't used them like that. I wouldn't keep those on the machine as like a standard vise. I'm guessing here, but I think that the minimum close on those vices is like probably like in the inch-ish range. I could be totally wrong, so don't take my word for it, but I don't think that you can like close them all the way.
Okay. And then do you use, because I saw that they have like a feature where you can pop the top of the nut off to like rapidly close the jaws. Do you use that fairly often? Is it as useful as it looks like it is?
Honestly, I just use like an impact driver and just, open the jaws up, because that's quick too. But it is cool for like disassembly and like moving them around and stuff like that. the rail that the jaws ride on, it has like ball detents on it. So you can like you said, you can position them, at the same spot on like both sides of the vise and then put that half nut back in. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's like a super useful thing, at least for the way that we use them, but it is cool.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say like they're nice when you need them, but I wouldn't want that to be like my go-to vise. They're big and they're heavy, and they can be a little bit cumbersome to move around. So
okay,
I don't know, but yeah, if you need them for large stuff, they're nice.
Cool. And then, I mean, as what I would call a resident expert in laying, are there things that you wish you had bought sooner, or things that you wish you hadn't bought for the whole system?
Honestly, everything that we've got from Lang has been great. I think the only complaint I've ever heard about like any Lang product is their, what is it, like the 5C collet thing? You know what I'm talking about? People seem to not like that. Yeah, people seem not to like that thing. But everything else, I mean, it's been pretty great. I like their modular plates. They're pretty cool. They're like pretty easy to set up and to like align to your machine for the first time and stuff like that. Man, what else?
Yeah, how was setting up that many Lang plates in the VM6, and how did you do it? Because that is, how many are in that machine? 20?
I think there's 14 in there, maybe.
Jeez. So where did you start? Did you start on one end and work your way across, or start in the middle and work out? Or
I think we started on the left side. So they're the modular plates, so they stack in Y. So like you can take like the tightening nut thing out of the front of the vise, or out of the front of the rear plate, and replace it with like a rod, basically. So when you tighten the front plate, it also tightens the rear plate. So I think we did like the left side first, front and rear, and like kind of roughly trammed that in within a couple thou or something like that. And then we just started sticking the rest of the plates on. And they've got like these little alignment keys that go between the plates. So we put all of those in, left everything, or like left the attachment to the table loose. And then I think we trammed across like the front X and like just tapped the whole assembly in. Yeah, I think it took Jeff like a whole day to do that. Actually, it was not super easy, but you only got to do it once, so
right.
But yeah, I mean, you don't have to tram vices in after you do it, so that's cool.
Oh,
you just throw stuff on there. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wish you had bought earlier for the Lang stuff?
Their tombstones are actually super useful. Like I think they're 2-sided, or maybe they're 1-sided. I forget. But like if you've got Lang on a vertical, and you wouldn't need to do side work on a part, like it's cool. You can just take your vise off and then put it on the tombstone, and you can do all of your side work that way, So the guys actually do that a lot.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, we just bought 2 more of their tombstones so that we can hold like long stuff that needs side work in the VM6. So those have been helpful. They've got that cool little chuck thing, the Vasto clamp or something. Yeah, that thing's nice too. We don't use that a ton, but it comes out every once in a while for round things. I mean, how aerospace stuff is, like sometimes you'll have to make a square part out of a round bar for the print. So, it sees some use here and there.
Yeah, totally. All right. So usually this is shop news and new things, but I think we've kind of gone over that. You are going to be
more new things, actually.
Oh, do share them, please.
I got a Bridgeport manual mill.
Say new things before that?
Yeah. I'm actually stoked. It's super clean. It came out of a Hollywood film studio, apparently. I bought it from Resell CNC, who a lot of people are probably familiar with. But they were like, oh, yeah, they made like some of the Deadpool costume parts from this machine. And I was like, oh, that's cool, I guess.
That's super neat.
So, yeah, it's funny. I got that, and we got a CO2 laser, too, which should be cool.
From
both of those things.
Boss?
From Boss.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Big one. Whenever I sub stuff out to Easton, like a lot of times he'll send it to me with really awesome cardboard dividers that he laser cut. And I wanted to do that. So yeah, we just bought a laser to cut cardboard, basically, which is kind of stupid, but we ended up getting a job for it too. So it'll kind of pay for itself, but mostly it's just going to cut cardboard dividers for shipping.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I think we both have commiserated many times about how much a pain shipping can be.
It really can be. Yeah.
They can ruin a $100,000 job if they want to, just because they're like, oh yeah, we hit it with a forklift or dropped it off the truck or something. And so anything you can do is worth it.
Yeah, especially when you start getting into bigger parts too, like shipping via UPS just gets exponentially more difficult, just because they like to toss boxes. I mean,
Oh yeah. I've had many empty McMaster box show up and just a giant hole in the side.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, oh, thanks, guys. Did you not notice that this is empty now? Yeah, it's a pain for sure. Oh, man. Anything else new?
I'm like looking around right now. I don't think so. Oh, we're moving shops. That's new.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that is a big deal. I forgot about that. Yeah, we're in like 6,000 square feet right now, and I think the office is 1,500. So technically, the shop is in like 4,500 square feet, and we're getting pretty slammed in here. We're like, the aisles are getting really narrow, and like we have to move stuff to get to other stuff. It's like getting pretty old pretty quickly. So we signed the lease for a 16,000 square foot building, which is going to be entirely too big and really over the top for a little bit, but it's like the first place that I've found that has just been like pretty perfect for what we need. Like not a whole lot of offices. It's got like 550 amps of power. I think it's 220, but like we've got 200 right now, so that'll be a big improvement. It's got like a giant ramp on it, so you can just like drive machines into the shop. Like right now we're dock height with no ramp, so like rigging anything into here is a nightmare. What else does it have? Oh, it's got like fire suppression and like LED lights, and it's just like freshly renovated and stuff. So it's like one step closer to running a real business. like right now we're in like this industrial park that just has like junk cars and like, you know, shit everywhere.
Right.
And like people are always like, whenever I have customers come over here, they're like, "Where are you guys?" I'm like, "Oh, well, you got to drive around the back you got to drive along the barbed wire fence until you see our sign." Like, you know?
Well, the new place has like a ton of windows too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got windows, so that's awesome. We'll have some natural light.
Yeah, it is a gorgeous building. Like I think you guys
I'm
really
stoked.
picked well for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of the first time that I've been like really anxious for the business for a while, because it's going to be like a major jump in rent. But we'll just go for it and hope for the best, I guess. It should be okay, I think.
Yeah, no, it's tough. Like moving to this shop, there was nothing in the comfortable range. It was like, all right, you got to outspend yourself a little bit. And granted, this is nowhere near the investment that you guys are putting in, but it feels like you always have to take like a big leap in terms of buildings and never that like medium, like, oh, this is a comfortable raise in rent kind of thing.
Yeah. And like, I feel like if we moved into like a 10,000 square foot building and signed a 5-year lease, you know, in 3 years, we would be back in the exact same spot where I'm like, okay, we're packed into this place again. So yeah, I'm just going to like bite the bullet and pay more rent than I want to for a while and just try to grow into it. But yeah, there's been like 2 instances in this business where I was like extremely anxious, and this is one. Well, the first one was like when I bought the first 5-axis machine, and this is the second one. So, but
boy.
The 5-axis machine worked out, so hopefully the building will work out too.
I think it definitely will. When's the moving date?
Well, I get the keys on Tuesday after Labor Day.
Oh, sweet.
But like I need to have the electrician go in and do his thing, and I'm hoping that I can AC it. Like if I can AC it for like not $100,000, I'll probably do it just because it makes working in the shop so much better, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You guys have AC in your shop now, I think?
We do. Yeah. It is a game changer. As someone who also lives in a hot climate, and granted, we don't have the humidity you guys do, but man, it is night and day. Like I come into work in the summer and I'm like, you know what? I don't hate being here anymore. Like I don't go home at the end of the day just hating life.
Yeah, this summer's been brutal, man. Like we have an AC unit in our shop, but it's not even like near like the capacity that it needs to actually air condition everything. So it's just like a gradient of suffering from the rear of the shop to the front. Ooh. Like it's like relatively cool in the back and like tolerable, but like the farther you get away from it, it just gets so brutal. So I think just for like the human enjoyment of being at work and like not like sweating into your machine, like it's got to be done. So I'm willing to pay some money for it. I'm just hoping that it doesn't cost me too much. Right.
Well, I know I was listening to Pete's manufacturing space with the guy from Senket Send, Jim, and he was talking about putting $500,000 worth of AC into one of their newer plants. And I was like, oh, yeah, that hurts crazy, just man. Listening to. Like,
yeah. I think it pays for itself, though, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I think in terms of productivity and like keeping your machines in a climate controlled environment and stuff, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. It's good for everything. Parts are more accurate or consistent, at least. All that stuff. Yeah. Well, dude, I'm pumped for you. That's going to be so cool.
Yeah, we're stoked. Hopefully this move goes smoothly. We're going to be kind of playing it by ear. Like my employees have been asking me like, oh, what's the plan for moving? I'm like, dude, I do not know. Like, it's going to be, it's going to depend on like what job is running at that time and like when the electrician can finish and stuff. Like, I just have no way to answer that question for you right now.
Yeah.
But we
Totally
did get 2
fair.
free months of rent. So hopefully that'll ease the transition a little bit.
That helped with us a lot. Like we
Yeah.
spent ridiculous amount of money on the move and not having to pay rent for the first 2 months. It was like, all right, we've got a little bit of, run up here. We can, get things in and not stress about it. And that was great.
Yeah, that's been good. Yeah, I'm hoping that like we've had our best customer this year that I mentioned earlier, they fired their CFO this year. And
Oh my goodness.
that made payables kind of an issue for a while, and we're like just now coming out of that hump. So I'm hoping that like they'll continue to pay a lot of their overdue stuff and like ease this transition for us. Because man, I know that like when this starts, the bank account is just going to go down so fast, and it's going to be stressful.
Yeah, it's wild. Like I suppose if
crazy
you
how
have 2
fast you can
months,
spend it.
like you can maybe start moving stuff over and then still keep the shop running. But like for us,
Yeah,
we hard cut because we were like, oh, like we should have no problem moving in a month. And then it was like, oh, well, the electrician took 3 of those weeks. And then, this took another week. And it was like, okay, so I guess we're going to be done for 2 months. And yeah, by the end of it, I was like, man, that bank account's low.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how we're going to play it, but I'm hoping to have like everything 100% ready to like slam those machines onto the ground, level them, and put them back in service. It's not going to go that way, but I'm going to do my best.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, we're on the run up to IMTS. You're going to be there. What are you looking for? Or are you just going to hang with the boys?
I'm mostly going to hang with the boys, but we were looking for a saw last IMTS. I think we're doing that again. I think we might be trying to find a new saw.
Yeah.
And then we're like kind of like jokingly looking at a chip briquetter. Like I think that it would be useful, but I also think that it might be like an annoying machine to have to maintain and actually use. So I don't know if we can get a chip briquetter for like a relatively decent price, maybe we'll do that. But at the same time, we've got this move coming, so I'm not trying to spend a whole bunch of money at IMTS if I can help it.
Totally. Yeah. No, I think we're both looking for saws at this IMTS, so we'll have to spend an hour or two walking around together and seeing what we can find. I know that as much as I don't want to buy a Chinese rebranded Haas,
yeah,
that they are coming up with an auto saw, so like I'll definitely take a look at it. Cause,
I would look at the Haas saw.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I would.
I mean, like, yeah, if I can finance it, or if it's cheap enough, I can pay for it out of pocket. But if I can finance it for 1 or 2% and have a saw on my floor that I don't have to use my dumb chop saw anymore, like I will be a very happy man. So
yeah, saws are one of those things where they're either like cheap and kind of shitty, or like $50,000 and really awesome. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of in between for saws,
Yeah,
at least from what I've seen.
So actually, give us the update. So you bought a Cozen at the last IMTS?
No, a cast.
Cast, that's what it was.
Yeah, honestly, like it cuts fine and stuff. It's a pretty decent saw for the price. I think it was like 12 grand delivered. My biggest thing about it that I don't like is that it's got like the roller feeder instead of like the squeeze, push forward, squeeze type feeder, whatever they call that. And with the roller, I think like basically you're going to have a 10-inch drop. So like if you're doing stuff like we do, where you buy like a 12-inch bar of material and you're making 2 parts out of it, like you pretty much have to buy a 2-foot bar because the saw needs like 10 inches to clamp onto. So that's like the biggest annoyance about it. But otherwise, like I cut super straight, easy to use. I guess like chip evacuation is like not awesome on it. Like it doesn't have a conveyor or anything. But like for the amount of sawing that we do, like 2 years ago at IMTS, I couldn't justify like $50,000 for like a saw with all the bells and whistles. Like we're not production cutting aluminum here. We're making 2 cuts.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. So what I'm hearing is that there's going to be a saw available in Jacksonville sometime soon for a decent price while you get your new one. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, if we end up finding something that works for us.
Awesome. Well, okay, that brings me to the last couple questions. First up, what have you been researching this week? Doesn't have to be manufacturing related, just what's been popping up in your browser.
Yeah, I'm going back to AC again. I've been trying to find like ballpark figures for like what AC is going to cost. I've been looking at air systems and stuff, like maybe the rapid air or whatever, maybe copper again. I don't know. I think you guys are copper, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Or yeah, you're copper. I've got a lot of experience sweating coppers, and like I don't really mind doing it. But I don't know. The rapid air looks like even easier. than doing copper. So maybe we'll go that route. My like biggest apprehension about it is not being able to walk into a store and just like grab we're probably going to do like 2-inch pipe for the main run. Like, I don't think that you can just buy that locally. You have to like order it in. So,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah. We the nice thing is we reused so much of our copper. We got like a little DeWalt attachment that goes on one of our impact drivers, and it just goes around the pipe and then quickly cuts it off. Yeah. And so we were able to like cut down our old stuff super quickly, bring it over, and I think we spent, I don't know, maybe $150 or $200 in new copper to add to what we had already. And then
that's what we were kind of battling that too. Like, do we rip all of our copper and electrical out of here, or do we just leave it? I think I'm gonna bring my electrician in and be like, do you want to reuse this stuff, and just let him make the call on that probably. But yeah, so like, did you guys just like cut the copper and then scrap the like any sweated connections, or did you unsweat everything? Or
I want to say that we threw away most of the connections. I think there was a couple that were like, specialty adapter stuff that we needed for a few pieces that we kept, but besides that, we were just like, screw it, we'll buy a couple boxes worth of connections and
that's probably like $50 worth of like couplers and stuff. So Yeah, I'd probably go that route too. But like, we've got a ton of 1-inch and I think 3/4 inch pipe here. So I don't know. Maybe we'll take it all.
Yeah. It for us, it worked out well. Brad designed the new system very well. So like the drops fit, pretty well. We don't have a bunch of like little connecting pieces, thankfully.
Yeah.
I could see it looking super jank if we had done it a little bit wrong.
Yeah. But then I'm also wrestling like, if I take all the copper out of here to use in the new shop, that's like more downtime. What costs more, or what costs less rather, buying new copper or having the downtime? It's probably going to be the copper. I would think is the cheaper option. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think that I can probably do like half of the shop or a quarter of the shop now with new stuff, and then take all of our old stuff. And when we want to add more airlines, then I can just use the old stuff for that. So maybe that's what we'll do.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just get like the minimum viable product up and running, and then you can go from there. Makes a ton of sense.
Pretty much.
All right, next up, give us a tip from this week, a machining tip from this week.
A machining tip from this week. You're going to have to cut this part out because I'm going to have to think on this for a minute. You got any ideas for me?
I'm not in your shop. I don't know. Well, let's circle back. I'll do the last one.
All right.
Give me a win from this week that you can share.
I guess a win for this week is just that we've got IMTS coming up, and I don't think that it's going to make us ship anything late. I think that the guys kind of crushed it for the last couple of weeks. We've got like everything's in a good place to like leave and shut down. Like, I'm not going to have anything that's on my mind like while I'm at IMTS. I think, unless something comes up, but we're looking pretty good. So
awesome. Yeah, I'm feeling confident that we will get. Well, we have to get everything done before I leave, even if that means a few, work until the next morning kind of nights. I've got, I don't know, a handful of jobs left to get done this week, and then I'm done for a week, which will be fantastic. Yeah, for sure.
I started telling my customers like a month ago, I'm like, hey, we're going to be down for a week. If you need anything, please like let me know now, because I'm going to have to tell you no the week before IMTS. And that worked out pretty well. Last year, I didn't do that. I was not on top of leaving like before we actually left. So learned my lesson.
Yeah, I told one of my customers a few weeks ago, and then they promptly forgot this week and were trying to send me work. I'm like, listen, that is literally over the week that I'll be gone. I'm sorry, I can't do it. And the real irony is that they're going to be there as well. And I was like, you know this, you should know this. But it was all good. I think that, everybody's just trying to get work done, obviously.
Yeah. I think my machining tip for this week is that if you have automation, probably check your coolant tank before you leave so that you don't lose a whole night of potential part making because your coolant tanks. Yeah. I mean, our machine caught it, but still we come in the morning and it's just like one part's done and the coolant tank's empty. That's what people always say. Like when you start automating stuff, like there's just so many more layers of like things that can go wrong. We need to make like a checklist of like things to look at on the machine before you leave if the pallet pool's running,
Have you caught anything else that has, had weird errors that you wouldn't have expected?
I think when we first set it up, like there's 10 pallets on it, and pallet 4 was like being finicky, like not wanting the pallet change. But the problem just solved itself. I guess. So I don't know. I think maybe just the gripper needed a few cycles on it to kind of get broken in, but we've had no more problems with it since then. But like other than that, I mean, not really. If you just tool break every tool, it's like really there's not that much risk to it. Lang makes it really easy too. We didn't talk about Lang stamping, but like if you're stamping all your stock the same way, then like you really don't have to like probe in to make sure that your stock's in the right place and stuff like that. So like we haven't had any issues there.
Yeah, the centering mark is like I think an unacknowledged thing for the stamping. Huge. Like I think I rely more on that than the stamping itself because like, you know, aluminum, like, yeah, I could probably just grab it hard enough with the jaws, but like knowing that I am perfectly on center and I'm not going to worry about like, oh, did I load it 1/8 of an inch off center and now I'm going to blow up a tool or something.
Yep. Yeah, we actually, people were asking like, are you going to run, you know, stainless or anything on it? And I was like, nah, probably not for a while until we get more comfortable with it. But then like, for the last like 3 days, we've been running stainless parts on it like overnight. So I guess we got over that hump pretty quickly. But like just with tool break detection, like you feel pretty safe. Like you're probably not going to destroy anything, you know?
Right.
We're not running any like redundant tools or anything. It's just straight up like if a tool breaks, then it just stops for now.
Which is great. I think that's the way to start it. Like the last thing you want to do is try to super overcomplicate it and then forget something very important. So
right. Yeah. I mean, coolant is always, you know, it's a constant battle. Like if you're running a lot of TSC, like you'll get foaming and stuff like that. So you kind of have to be careful. Like if I've been trying to run like less TSC, especially on the pallet pool, just to like avoid any foaming issues. Because I mean, that happens a little bit because we're running, like if it runs for like 6 hours straight, like there might be some foam in there.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Well, Juan, thank you so much for coming back on and giving us all the update. I'm sure that you'll have to come on maybe a little bit sooner than 2 years. Let's make it before next IMTS because I'm sure that the new building will bring a lot of growth.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do another one in 6 months or something after we get that new building set up. That'll be probably an interesting episode. So
yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much. Thanks to all the Patreon members who make the show possible. New ones, Jeremy, Ash, and Zach. You guys let me send people like Juan microphones so that you guys get good audio. Thank you all for listening, and I will be back next week.
Bye.